What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Slammers Podcast. I am Beau joined, as usual, by my good buddy and co-host, Ben Litt. Ben, we got some interesting stuff on this episode, huh?
We do, yeah. A lot of stuff percolating.
Yeah. A couple housekeeping things before we get going.
Yeah.
We were approached by the Gap for any confusion there was out there by any clubs or any listeners, players. We have to announce that we are not affiliated with the Gap in any way, right? I guess there's been some confusion in that regard. We've also been provided with a disclaimer to read, which I'm going to read right now so we can get this episode started. This podcast, its authors, and its hosts are not in any way sponsored, licensed, or endorsed by, affiliated with, or connected to the Golf Association of Philadelphia or any of its affiliates. The Golf Association of Philadelphia and its affiliates do not endorse or support this podcast. The authors or hosts contributing to this podcast or any of the content or opinions expressed herein, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely and exclusively those of the authors and hosts and do not represent or reflect the policies, views, positions, or opinions of the Golf Association of Philadelphia or any of its affiliates. I don't know if you're able to digest all that, but it's a lot. In summary, we're not affiliated with the Gap. Anything else you wanted to add to that, Ben?
No, let's get into it.
Okay. Before we forget, I wanted to mention the U.S. Senior Open is next week, June 27th. It kicks off at Newport Country Club in Rhode Island, and we have a local Michael Brown playing in the field. I know we didn't get to touch much on the qualifier. I think he got in a playoff up at the Steel Club. Mm-hmm. So obviously, everybody in the area is going to be glued to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can make the trip up, go up and support him.
I'm sure there's going to be some people from Lulu that will head up, and some others from the association. I'm really excited for Mike because he's at that point in his career where he's kind of done almost everything he can around here, right? Like he's obviously still participating and competing, but having won everything here, like I feel like that was kind of the next step, in his golf journey, and to get in something like that is obviously really special. So best of luck to Mike out there. We'll all be rooting you on. I think that's it for housekeeping. I want to switch right into Jericho, which was our last qualifier. And I feel like a lot to talk about. I mean, just from the venue, the conditions, just some of our playing partners. There's a lot of good stories here, right?
Yeah, I guess where do we want to start here?
I guess we'll start with the course.
Yeah.
That was your first time playing it. I'll put it on you. What'd you think?
Yeah, that was my first time. I don't really want to mince words here, but that's probably about as good as conditions will get in a qualifier that I've played in quite some time. Obviously, it was one of those, we're in the middle of a heat wave right now. It was probably 95, 96 degrees out there all day. It was smoking. I've never seen a combo of such hot weather and firm greens. Mm-hmm. It was the greens were perfect. And they almost I know some of the courses around here are kind of quick to water them. They almost pushed it way too far the other way to the edge. Like I was out there in the morning and we got out to almost 2 p.m. and they still haven't thought about running the sprinklers. Like, oh my God, like they're probably going to lose these things if they weren't too careful, right?
I know. It felt more like a championship than it did a qualifier, not only from the conditions out there, but also the course setup.
Yeah.
And I love the setup, right? I want to get into the setup because we play so many of these qualifiers that are pushed up and allow for people to fake it and get in, like ourselves, like I said at times. We're not saying that we're immune to this because we're the biggest fakers of them all. And I love the qualifiers being a legitimate test of golf, right? And putting real shots in guys' hands and making guys close off a round. And I think my only gripe, I would say, there was a couple pins I thought with how firm the greens were that were a little crazy, like that pin on 13 that was way up there.
Right.
It was almost impossible to put it close there. I thought 16 the same way. Right, how everything kind of runs at that back of that green. That I thought those were two pins that I think. And once again, the Gap can't forecast that the greens are going to be concrete, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought, right? If the greens were soft, you wouldn't have thought anything of those pins. So, but I thought that was two things that might have been a little bit, I don't want to say that we use the word unfair, but maybe just not ideal, right, from a course setup perspective. But I love the yardages. I love where they played it. I love how they played it almost tipped out. And I kind of wish we got back to that more, right? Not even saying from a qualifying standpoint, but from a course setup championship standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, on the card here, I'm looking at it. It was 70-73.
Mm-hmm.
So almost 7,100 yards in a qualifier, right? It was one of those dynamics where the greens were obviously very firm. I think the fairways were softer relatively.
Yeah, they were.
So it did kind of play
long.
nearly
Yeah.
that amount, right? Especially if you're in the morning, right? It's dewy, it's soft. But I mean, getting into like the course, I really enjoyed the variety of holes out there. I think there were a lot of big boy shots that you had to hit. Some of the par threes come to mind, like the second hole, the 15th hole, where you have 5 and 4 irons, right, that are very much big boy shots. But you also have the combination of fun holes and gettable holes. I think the third hole comes to mind.
3 and 8, yeah.
Yeah, that iron and then flip wedge, which I think played really well with the front pin too. Kind of as a good.
Yeah, because you have to hit the fairway with your 230 shot in order to be able to put it close to that.
Right, you can't. And even if you're in the fairway with 70 yards and you have a partial wedge, you don't really have much of a chance.
Right.
And then I think 8 was great too. They had the drivable 4 there with water left. I know you were talking offline. You didn't like ever going for it there, but I mean, according to where they had the drop zone down there. It was just bombs away.
I didn't know they had a drop zone. I never read the rule sheet or listen to the whole rule. I'm very bad with the orientation stuff. I will say that's funny because I still think that going for the green on 8 is not the percentage play. I didn't know there was a drop zone there, so maybe adding that variable to the equation and maybe it changes things a bit. I was actually going to talk to you about 8 because. And I was thinking of this concept, and because we spoke and we were like, all of us just hit laid back, right, in our group,
Yeah.
And the guys behind us all laid back, and then you said everybody in your group went for it. Do you think going for short 4s is contagious in a group? Where like if you're the third guy going, right, and everyone else has driver out, and you see one guy wailing up near the green, another guy wailing up, then you almost feel like I'm a pussy if I don't hit driver.
Right, and we had, I mean, in my group, it's always nice to have practice round guy. Like Kevin in our group had played the practice round, and as soon as I saw him walk to that back box with driver, the decision was already made for me, right? We're similar length players, and I mean, of course, he laces it in there to like 15 feet, right? It's like, that kind of sold itself, right? I didn't need to
see much more.
Yeah, that was it. We all hit driver and we played the whole 1 under.
Okay.
Aggregate.
Yeah, I still think, because I just think it's such a nothing 5 iron up the right hand side there, and I think the wedge shot is it's just such a basic little wedge shot from there that you're never really going to make worse. Like you might make bogey every once in a while, but you're pretty much just going to make par or birdie every time if you lay up. Whereas if you go for it, you bring in, bogeys and doubles, and then you also bring in the fact that even if you hit it in one of those front bunkers, I'd rather be 7 yards out in the fairway than have one of those 25-yard bunker, 30-yard bunker shots. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I think over time, I still think that in that hole, iron is the play. But
yeah, and obviously,
I think I could probably be sold otherwise if I was a better player or if I was caddying for a better player.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of the guys in our group played the hole totally differently. I hit it long right in the fescue, and I was kind of chopping. Like I said, Kevin hit it to 15 feet, and the other guy smothered it in the water and made par from the drop zone.
From the DZ,
so it's like they're kind of a couple.
Hard to believe there was a drop zone there.
Right.
That's not a hole I would ever think to put a drop zone on because it's lateral, right? Like you just snipe it in and drop where you sniped in.
Right.
Usually it's when you're trying to do a big cover and you don't want guys hitting a 190-yard shot over and over again.
Yeah.
Let's just get them, up there a little bit and keep the pace of play going. It's interesting. I got to start reading those rule sheets. I mean, the way I'm spraying the ball, that stuff really applies to me.
Yeah. Also like to note it was a PCC +2 out there that day.
Was it really?
So
okay.
It was very, very challenging, for sure. Not that that's any consolation for our ending results.
No, we should probably announce. I mean, not that anyone really cares, but what did we shoot, a pair of 83s out there?
Yep.
I haven't lined up in those pass catchy numbers for a while, Ben.
Right. I mean, we're in line, but the Zebras know we're already reporting as an eligible receiver. Like, there's no...
It's just a matter if you're on or off the line. Right. Like, I'm on, I'm going to say I'm on, right?
With the boundary receiver. Right. There's no 70s or 60s in there, right? We're not a part of the offensive line group.
Yeah, I can't break 80, man. It's crazy. I'll get into that a little bit more in a second, but I wanted to point out that too that Jake Elliott was out there. Eagles kicker again. He did his token Philly Open Qualifier. He's been doing that every year, I think, because it aligns with his schedule. Got to catch up with him for a bit. He's always fun to talk to, but Yeah, weren't there some guys out there? You said after I teed off, you saw some guys come up and started fanboying him a little bit.
Yeah, I did see some of that action. That was really, really sad. Happened on multiple occasions. Just the guy, especially when you're getting ready. It's not like you're like sitting on the patio and you're like eating lunch or whatever.
Right.
This is pre-round. You're getting ready to play a tournament round of golf, right? Regardless of how serious that is, like that's time for you to kind of take care of your own business, right?
Well, what about respect for the other competitor that he's getting ready to tee off as well, and he's going through his routine? Like he doesn't want to talk to some random dude from Lulu or something, right? Like why? Like that's just it's very weird, you know?
Right. You get the real dog and pony show. Oh, we had Saquon Barkley out there last week. We got to get you out there, pal. It's like I don't think he has any interest, right, in going out there and playing with you.
Well,
right?
think about how weird it is. This is where I guess it's almost like a human study thing. A guy's not going to come up to you. Right, me or you, who doesn't know us, and just start talking and say, hey, you should come out to Lulu this weekend, right? He doesn't know us. Just because you watch Jake Elliott kick footballs on TV, you don't know the guy. You know what I mean? Like why are you acting like, right, it's very bizarre behavior if you think about it, right?
Right.
Like,
because at the end of the day, it's self-serving.
Well, how weird would it be if a guy came up to you out of nowhere and just said, hey, man, you want to come out to Lulu this week? And you'd be like, dude, I don't know who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
It would be like one of the weirdest things ever. Like, so like when they come up to Jake, like they know him, it's just... I don't know, man. I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. And it was multiple. It was on the putting green, in the bathroom. Like, it was just all over the place. We need to get that guy a big pair of shades. You know, he's got to go incognito for some of these things if he's going to do more of these in the future.
Yeah, pull the hat low. Like he's walking out of a strip club look, right? Not trying to get caught by the PI or something, right? Yeah, it's cool that he signs up, though. It's cool. I hope that it doesn't deter him, like these exchanges don't deter him from signing up more, because I would think, knowing him, we know he doesn't really want the attention. Right?
No, absolutely.
I mean, he just wants
to
do his thing, right? He does.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants, whatever. I don't want to speak for him. Maybe he does, but I don't get that impression. He's a very humble guy. Yeah, so I chopped it up at Jericho. I'm in that mode where just because I've been golfing for so long, I can put my ball in the hole on, I don't want to say easy, but like easier courses. Mm-hmm. And I think that front nine at Jericho is pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
It's not very demanding outside of a couple shots, like you mentioned, 2. And I was able to fake my way around on that front nine, right? I got the plane off the ground.
Yep.
But there was no way I was landing that plane safely on that back nine with that swing I had going, man. And that back nine was really tough, don't you think, Ben? I mean, that to me, the disparity in nines there is crazy. Because you can fake it around that front nine really all day and not do anything crazy. And then you get to that back nine and it's like, I was just doing everything to make a par back there.
Yeah, a lot of uncomfortable shots, a lot of weirdly demanding holes. Yeah, it's tough to grind out a great score on the back.
And how funny was that ridge, where that ridge begins on 13 and 14, all the shenanigans we saw going on over there.
Oh my God.
I mean, it almost had the feeling of there was like a guided hike or something going around on that ridge. I mean, there was guys everywhere pointing around, rummaging through bushes. Did you see a guy on 13 that hit a ball so far right that he was essentially pinned down on the ground, right? Into that 14th fairway where he couldn't get up, like he almost had to tap out, right?
Right, just to orient the listener here, if they've ever played Jericho, the 13th hole is kind of it's a medium-sized par 4 with like a I should say like a plateau landing area, mm-hmm. and then to the right of the fairway is a big fall off with a lot of brush and trees and mm-hmm. whatnot, and then kind of further right is down the long 14th par 5 that comes back up the other way, right? And it's obviously on the right side, very tree lined as well, a lot of brush, right? And this guy just shoots off probably one of the biggest flares of the day down to 14 onto the 14th fairway. And like I said, it's so thick in between those two holes, mm-hmm. and it's such a steep drop off. Like, it was almost a feeling, like you said, he's trapped down there.
Right.
Like, I don't even know how his cart was down there. I have no idea how the cart got
down there. Yeah.
Right. But to the point of being trapped, like, he had to go like up towards, he had to play up 14 mm-hmm. towards the 14 tee box, which is again not very wide, right? It's kind of gets it, like he's almost trying to land it on the tee box itself and then like flop it back over the trees.
I mean, for a guy who missed the landing area that was 50 yards wide, right, and then he's trying to hit one that's 10 yards wide, that doesn't seem like a percentage play.
Right. He missed the 50-yard wide by 50 yards.
And then he's trying to hit this little tee box just to get back into play. I mean, I don't even know what he made. He might be one of those guys that walked off. We saw that was a stretch of holes where there was some casualties.
Right. I mean, it felt pretty fitting. The fifth hole over 600 yards. It felt pretty right that there were 2 walk-offs on the 6th hole after making 8, 9, or whatever a long high score there.
Yeah, because that hole's so long, and it really takes a lot out of you to finish it if you hit some wild shots there.
Right.
I mean, really, you could be on the hole for 40, because it was a slow day. I mean, realistically, you could be on the hole for 40 minutes.
Yeah, because you're really just trying to just beat the ball up there.
Well, then you got guys rooting around for balls up in the hills. Maybe you're looking up there, right? I saw guys, I don't know, there's certain guys that look for balls that you shouldn't even be looking for. It's like, why are we looking for these balls? I shot off a Ric Flair on 13, but I didn't go all the way down the hill. I was just off in that gully, like that grass bunker, and
Sure.
I just wedged 80 yards or whatever. But I saw some folks to the right of me on 14 rummaging through the trees, where the hazard on the left. It's just drop a ball.
Yeah, they're
if you find
there's stakes there,
there's stakes, and it was so thick. I can't even believe his playing partners were in there. To use one of our favorite golf one-liners, I wouldn't even look for my kid in there, right? I mean, I'm telling the guy pal, it's on you if you want to go in there and really try to find this. Right.
I
got shorts on, man.
That's a full Washington Crossing reenactment for sure. Staying true to form. Right. Just hacking through, trying to build a campsite, another outpost site. Right. Washington and his men. What was that? Almost 300 years ago. Right. Trudging through there.
Right around those grounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just trying to get to their next checkpoint, next century outpost.
And I'm just watching those guys, and I'm thinking, then I'm over. It was just very comical around there. Then you said you saw the guy shot one off. Then when I was coming up 14, I saw other guys climbing down around 13. And it gets really chaotic down in that stretch.
Right, and
it's almost like Chopper's Paradise back there. And that's right when my faking got exposed. Instantly, as soon as I hit that stretch, it was I was just done.
Yeah,
I was 4 over through 12 with an awful bogey on 11. And then I got to that 13, made an awful double, 3-putt double, and then got to the 14 and made a bogey, and I was just kind of done, right? I went from 4 over to 7 over, and that was it, right?
Right. I made a bogey on, I'm kind of the similar. I think I went out in 4 over, and then just made a horrendous bogey on that short par
12.
3-12.
Yeah.
And then made just boned one over the green on 14 and made a sloppy bogey there. I think that leads us nicely into one of our other things we wanted to talk about was every year we play in a lot of these golf tournaments. You should get one eject button per round to just at any point in your round, you get one of these a year. At any point in a tournament round, you reserve the right to just teleport yourself out of this and just back to your desk or back to your pool, back to your house, whatever. Just get out of there, right? Because I was ready to pack up shop on 14.
Once that happened, once you know you're done, I think I'm past the point of, in this point in the season and just how bad my game's been, I'm past the point of moral victories or trying to find something, right? Once I'm done, I'm done. I just don't even care enough to really grind out a few holes and be like, oh, well, I finished those last 5 holes. Well, I'm going to hit some good shots. I can carry that forward to the next tournament. I'm just not there. Right.
No,
so I agree with you. As soon as you see my cards, as soon as I'm off the number, I just completely implode. It's just right onto the double train and just ride it right into the clubhouse. I mean, I got off on that 16. That hole really had some casualties. The 16th hole.
Yeah, it did. My legs took a beating. Poison Ivy looking for golf balls in there. I had to do the full clean off after the round looking for balls.
Well, it's funny because we started off and I was riding with this kid, right? And this kid, I mean, honestly, one of the best kids I've ever played with in a qualifier. I played with him prior to this in the qualifier last year.
Yeah.
Really a great dude, cool, would hang out with him any day, right? He was incredibly wild on the front 9, right? Mm-hmm. And he had us looking for the first hole. I mean, I couldn't even believe how long we were on the first hole. He couldn't find his ball that was in a bunker. He was looking 60 yards ahead off the tee. Then he chunks one out. Then I get up on the green and we can't find his ball on the green. He's looking over the green in the fescue, 50 yards over the green. And I'm like, dude, how far out were you? He was like, I was 200 yards. I'm like, what'd you hit? He's like, 5-iron. I'm like, dude, you're never going to fly a 5-iron 250, right? Uphill. So then we're looking around. We find his ball in a drainage thing, right? It was unfortunately went into a drainage thing. We couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Then on 2, he shoots off. I mean, you talk about that guy on 13 shooting off a flare. He shot a hybrid off one too from like the 230 we were playing at.
Right.
I mean, so far down the cliff.
Prompting the rescue helicopter to circle, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be seen from the clubhouse. And
a real SOS.
he shoots this thing off, man, and it was so far right. I couldn't even believe we were looking for it. I'm like, dude, what are we doing down here? Like, and you know how like when the search party, I feel like the search party starts and ends with the person's ball that you're searching for.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're kind of waiting for them. Like you're gonna look like, are we gonna wrap this up? Like we're not.
Right. Because as the player that is. Whose ball it is, you own the search party, right? And it's your etiquette to say like, we're good,
guys. We're waving it off. Yeah, we're good. I'm just gonna.
Right? I don't love the lingerers.
No. So we were looking for this ball, in my opinion, for a little too long because it's one of those ones. Unless you find quickly and thin stuff, I mean, you don't. If you found it down there, you would just. I don't even know what you would do, right?
Right.
Like you would be. Your stance would be at like a 45-degree angle. You'd be just trying to chop out a fescue up the hill. I mean, I don't even know. It's so steep over there.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he had us looking for balls on the front, and the whole time I'm thinking, all right, I always give people good looks. I'm in that way. I would say I'm pretty good. I think what goes around comes around, and I instantly got my karma back on the back nine because I started spraying, man, and I was hitting it all over the place. I was trudging through fescue the whole back nine. I think I was in more brown than green.
Really?
Oh my god, I was in the fescue on 10. I was in the fescue or down in that thing on 13 in the fucking grass bunker.
Yeah.
14 I was up in the fescue on the right.
Okay.
16 I was it was like corn stalks.
16 I had a rough time.
I mean, it's so thick up there. That's the one where I really thought, and to lead into another point, and I guess this kind of taps into more where I'm at with mentally with golf. When I got onto that 16th, right, and I shot one up into that cornfield, I'm trying to hit a draw, and I hit a cut, and I'm just thinking, I'm so pathetic out here right now.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
You did the same thing? Yeah.
I still have contact dermatitis from that search party on 16.
I mean, that stuff was really thick. That was the stuff I really felt bad for. I mean, it's so tick infested up there. I mean,
I had to do a full wash down after the round.
Yeah, you catch Lyme disease from that, ruin your whole summer.
Yeah.
And I had these guys looking, and I kept saying, guys, I'm so sorry, man. Like, I got to get out of here, And that's when it really kicked in that my play is starting to affect others, right? Even though these guys were chopping, like, it's ruining people's day. I mean, seriously.
Sure.
Like, the guy's dad's trudging through fescue. We had this cat. I'm like, this is so pathetic for no reason. Like, other than, like, we just want to get done. I'm already out of it. I don't want to, and I go back to the tee and hit another one. So after that, I just said, you know what? That moment hit me. I'm like, I'm not playing tomorrow, which was the Forest Gate US Am qualifier.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely belong in an association qualifier right now, let alone a national championship qualifier, right? Mm-hmm. I think part of being a man is just knowing when you gotta park the car, right? I mean,
when you gotta know when you hold them and fold them.
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes you just gotta take the shitmobile off the road, and when it's affecting other people, right? And I think that's kind of where I was at that point. Have you ever felt that way, where you just feel like, man, like this is like starting to really affect other people, how bad I am?
No, I felt that. I felt that again on 16 at Jericho, because I was playing with two SJU guys, Kevin LaFond, who was the medalist, and then Christian Matt, who played really well. He shot one over, so they were combined even par, and then Dopey me, just slowing them down at that point, right? And those because those got like you guys, all three of you were chopping, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming all three didn't qualify.
Yeah,
right?
We were 83, 83, 84.
Like those guys were trying to like grind and like Kevin was trying to medal and Christian was like grinding to get in, right? He birdied 17 and had a nice finish, right? So I'm really holding them up.
Yeah.
Right? And I took so long. I hit like I hit a sleeve off of 60. Like,
yeah, it was just like, crazy. Come on. Yeah, right.
Like, I just don't want to hold these guys up anymore because they're actually playing for something.
Right.
And like Kevin Kevin didn't play 16 well, and I kind of owned some of that,
yeah.
right? Just because I was such...
It's like a distraction.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were really great kids, and they looked for my ball, too, but I can't help but think that held them up and hurt them in their own focus for their shots, right?
100%.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, when have you ever seen, like, Scotty Scheffler trying to close off a tournament, and he's rooting around in fescue looking for his partner, right? Like,
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. We're talking about the firm greens. What about that 15th green? Do you remember that being as firm as I did? I thought that was the firmest green I've stepped foot on in a long time. I remember just instantly stepping foot on it, and I feel like I just stepped onto like a basketball court or something.
There were a lot of those out there. I think that 15th one, that was again like basically an airplane runway strip down there. There was really no way to to find it on there.
No.
That 11th green was weirdly firm as well.
Really firm. Yeah.
I had like a full 60 that just
same.
And same with
ran off the back, and then
13's green was so firm.
13 was a rock. Yeah.
I hit a full 60 off of there and like lands a foot short and goes to the back of the green.
Yeah, like I said, it was impossible to put it close there.
So crazy, especially downhill too. A little bit more steam on it. Yeah, they were so firm out there.
All right, last thing, and then we can move on from Jericho. Did you ever have this happen in a tournament? You know when you play golf and there's always like a first time for everything. You feel like you've done it all, and then back to the playing partner who we were looking for his balls on the first couple holes, who I think is an awesome dude.
Yeah,
he was driving our cart. I had to pull the keys from him after a few holes. I couldn't take it.
Was it that bad?
Yeah, it was one of those things where he didn't know where he was going. He was parking the wrong way and then having to turn around the green, like just doing all this goofy stuff. And then on top of that, he was only going like half the speed of the cart, which I don't know why. It's definitely a me problem, but it drives me fucking nuts when guys don't floor a cart. Right? I mean, does that bother you? When guys are doing half speed and you're kind of jerking around, it's like, dude, fucking floor this thing. Right?
Well, yeah, because it's a pea shooter, right? There's no
fast, right. But like, you're gonna throw my back out, like really when you're doing that jerking around. And I said, look, man, I literally already was starting to take his clubs off the thing. I said, do you mind if we just switch this up? Like as soon as he putted out, because I made my putt, and he's like, yeah, no problem. I took him off and just switched him. I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I had to pull him off the road. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
I've never had a bad driver as a cart mate, for sure. I've had people that have played bad and have taken it poorly right in the car with me, but never a bad driver.
Me neither.
That's a new one.
I couldn't take it, but like I said, it's definitely a me problem.
Speaking of a new one, one more thing from Jericho. There was a fella in the field that WD'd after 9 holes. He was playing the back 9, right? And he wasn't playing well, right? But if the cards are correct, right, this guy hoops it on 18 for a deuce, an eagle on 18, and then just calls it quits. Have you ever seen something like that? Just like a walk-off eagle.
Into the locker room.
WD.
It's
right into the shower.
Hit the half-court shot and just go right into the shower.
Right,
He's done. That's it. He didn't come out for the second half.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that. That's a great
wait. Well, read off his cards. So just go through the 9 holes. I want to hear it.
Yeah. Bogey, par, bogey.
Right, go with the numbers if you don't mind. I think it's funnier.
5-3-5.
Okay.
8-3-8.
So you
7 deuce.
That double on that 17 is
that is
horrendous.
That is a bad double. And then to hoop it on 18 and then just
say, you know what,
guys, that's it. All right, I'm done. And he's flipping over the easier side. You think he could have gotten?
Yeah, use that deuce and kind of maybe he could have gone eagle, right? And he got a par 5 on deck. I mean,
yeah, why not?
Talk about volatility. That's incredible, honestly.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
like you said, maybe it's a card error. Maybe he just was walking off and just said, "Fuck it, I'm going to put a 2 in there." Just for fun.
I would like to have believed it was a deuce walk off. The big bird.
That's enough for Jericho. I think we've probably talked about that more than any qualifier we've ever played in. But I think it just goes to show the state of our game. And when you get an interesting venue like that, there's a lot to talk about. Let's move on to the M, which neither of us participated in any fashion, player or caddy. It was won by Austin Barbin, who is on an absolute tear. And I think
tear is an understatement.
I think every amateur golfer in the area is hoping he just turns pro just to get out of here. At some point, you get a little too good,
Yeah.
And it was a great run by Aaron Frick, but like going into that, I'm thinking if I could bet on this, I would just back the Brinkstruck up on that Barbin. Like you kind of
Maxwell play.
It was a big time like knife to a gunfight kind of vibe, right? And it felt like that with everybody he played against. I mean, just absolutely dominant.
Yeah, let's go through because Austin en route to the final he played 5 matches. 6-5, 3-2, 5-4, 3-2, 9-7.
Yeah.
He didn't even make it to the 17th tee.
That's crazy. He didn't play. He played the 17th hole once all week from the AM.
Yeah.
Think about that, right?
Played it 1 time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a crazy thought. Because anytime you play that kind of stuff, you almost always have one close match that kind of propels you to it's your week, right? Like very rarely do you just buzzsaw 5 good players.
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of like the Celtics finals run, right? There was just kind of no resistance, really. They kind of just marched right through it, right?
Yeah.
To the tune of your bank account.
And it almost that was one of my few winners of the summer. Just hoping these Panthers can close the deal, man. Those guys got me really scared. I had that ticket marked as a winner, and it's looking at this point I just want to rip it up and forget about it, even though they got one game left. I just can't. I mean, you don't want to tie your name to something like that, right? Like the infamy of that. Remember that time the Panthers blew that 3-0 lead? It's like, yeah, I remember. I had I had a big future in on them. Yeah, I already had stuff allocated with that pay. Like I already had stuff.
It was prepaid. It was. Yeah.
Well, I already knew what I was going to spend. When I cash the ticket, I'm going to buy this, and now it's looking really scary. But yeah. Congrats to Barb, and I think he, like I said, I really hope he does turn pro, because if he continues his play, I just don't really see many guys from at least an amateur level, right? Like, not saying like if he plays in the Open, he's definitely going to win or whatever, right? Because we have some really good pros in the area, but from an amateur level, not many guys can really match that kind of play, right?
Yeah. I don't really know, especially with that display, right? And the Maryland Dam too. There's not much else to see.
No.
Right?
Yeah,
we've seen enough.
In the past, I've given guys a hard time, or at least being overly critical of guys who win like one thing, right? And all of a sudden they're like, oh, they want to go pro, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you won the Jersey Am, now you think you're good enough to go pro, but like that's all you've ever won. You've never really done anything else, right? Versus like if you're consistently dominating or consistently winning your section, then it kind of feels like, hey, you're ready for the next level.
Right.
And like, who am I to say, right? Like, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is right, but that's how I've always felt, at least, is that, you know, it's kind of like that progression of, you know, it's not like you just go win your club championship and all of a sudden you're going to start winning stuff in the Philly area, right?
Yeah.
Or if you go and win stuff, you win the Philly Am, doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to just sign up and be, you're ready to go pro, right?
Yeah, crushing mini tours.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you're dominating things in your area and you sign up and it's like you're a guaranteed, like at this point the way Barvin's playing with those 2 wins, and it's like if he played in the Open, you know, next week, you'd be shocked if he didn't come in the top 5, right? Like he's gonna be either winning it or right there, right? And if you're that good and you're doing that all the time in your local area, then I feel like it's like, okay, now I'm kind of ready for the next step, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't just have some like fluky week where you get hot and you play well in the Jersey Am or something, right? And you shoot even par for the week for 4 rounds, right? And all of a sudden you're ready to, you know, go tear it up down in Florida or something, right? But my point is, like, he's kind of proven where he's good enough to take it to the next level.
Totally agree. And I guess also another thing I wanted to talk about, I had a buddy who was playing with Pat Istvan in the stroke play qualifying, and kind of had the front row seat to the 69-65 performance. I just want to go through some of the shots that he remembered from that day from Pat's 65, because as we kind of previewed on the pod, some of the holes we're going to talk about are not very easy holes, and Patty just kind of crushed them. So at least to start, they went off 1, right? So Pat made par on 1, knocks it in the fairway bunker on 2.
Okay.
Makes birdie.
Okay.
Cans a 20-footer.
Okay.
So he's already one under there. He then flips over to 4, right? The long par 3, hits it to a foot. 240 shot, whatever.
Yeah, that's silly. Like silly stuff, yeah.
Flips over to 5. Knocks it up, hits a 6-iron to a back right pin, 3 feet. Eagle.
Oh.
Combined proximity on those 4 and 5 for birdie and eagle, 4 feet. That is so
absolute
so silly.
Laser show. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I haven't hit a shot like that in over a month.
Yeah.
You know, I
could absolutely say the same. He hit 17 out of 18 greens that day. The only green he missed was the 12th hole, that par 3 up the hill. Okay. He chipped in for birdie on that hole.
That's hysterical.
So it's not one of those where like the guy made everything. And
right.
The strokes gained putting seemed like probably pretty close to 0.
Pretty
right?
neutral, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't like, but it was just such a ball striking fiesta out there for the guy. In 65, I mean, Austin Barvin played very incredible golf for the week, but I think that 65 at Whitemarsh is probably the round of the tournament. Right,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because...
But even though Austin shot 65 too at Whitemarsh, Man,
yeah, they both. Yeah, well,
that's so
yeah,
crazy.
Austin was just it's just another level. But
Man.
and then poor Pat as the number 1 seed gets the reward of playing Michael Brown in the first round.
Right.
It's like,
and we
talked about that before. There's once you get in that match play, there's really never a reward for being that number 1 seed.
No, you just want to get in the dance, and there's no style points at all.
I'd like to see a stat if a number 1 seed. I'm sure somebody at some point has been a 1 seed and won, but I mean, I guess we could look it up because they do have the medalist and the champions on their list. But it just seems like such a tough task when you go out and you kind of blow your wad in that qualifying, right? To then come back, and unless you're just that good, right? Which, someone like a Barban or something could do, right?
Barban was the 2 seed.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So pretty much, that's kind of what he did. But awful Whitemarsh, North Hills, right? I know we kind of went through a preview, and we were talking about how hard that 18th hole was playing.
Oh, yeah.
And you said you didn't really remember much of it. I don't know if you were stoned that day or something when you were playing. I saw some pictures of that hole. That looks really, really bad. Like I mean, really, just like
some of the pictures we were sent are jarring images.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and if folks are not up to date on the 18th hole of North Hills, it's on the card. It's 348 yards, right? It's an iron and a wedge.
Yeah.
Right. It played to the hardest hole in stroke play qualifying that day at North Hills,
and maybe even for Whitemarsh too.
It was
right?
It was a 4.71.
Okay, maybe there was okay. We'll just say on North Hills. I was looking at it at one point. It was close to playing the hardest hole.
18 at Whitemarsh. So both 18th holes actually played as the hardest holes. Whitemarsh 18 played at 4.8.
Okay.
And 18 at North Hills 4.71.
A little bit different holes there, huh?
No, yeah. So 18 at Whitemarsh at 468, girthy par 4. But I didn't realize how bad that, because I played that, like I said, I played that course 2 years ago. I didn't realize how bad that hole was because
was your tee pushed up? Maybe you didn't get that shoot kind of feel going.
I don't think so. But just for people that haven't played it, the pictures we saw, there was just a jungle right of the tee box, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very overgrown, just massive trees, right, all the way down the right side. And again, it was so overgrown on that right side. If you didn't hit it far enough off the tee, you were completely blocked out by those same group of trees onto the green, right? So there were guys that would only hit it like 210 yards or 220 yards that would have to like chip out or like punch up
try
the
to
hill.
Get one up, like,
right, because it's a dogleg right that goes up the hill, right?
Yeah.
And the green is such a parking lot too. And so a lot of those balls roll over the green. Over is just so dead.
Yeah.
With the back to front green. And the even crazier part about that was obviously bunch of trees up the right side. I think there's railroad ties left, and it's a pretty tight on the left and OB left.
Railroad ties, huh?
I think there's like a railroad over.
An actual, not like a Pete Dye, like
no.
I'm thinking like, what the hell? That doesn't seem fitting for a place like that. did Pete stop by there one day and do some nailing?
So even if you were trying to set up an angle, right, and go to the left side of the tee box and just try to avoid,
you bring in the out of bound, then you're.
Well, no, there's like trees on the left side that you can't even take a backswing.
Oh,
right. So if you put your ball within the tee markers on the left side of the tee box, you can't take a backswing because there's shrubs there and stuff.
Oh my god!
This sounds such a nightmare.
Horrendous.
It's such a nightmare.
It sounds like it has to be one of the worst holes in the section, right?
I can't believe some of the stuff we saw from some of the players out there, and it played 4.71.
Well, it makes sense why, because on paper it's like, hey, it should be one of the easiest holes on the course if it's just the iron and flip wedge. Even I don't care how firm the green is, it's 340 yards, right?
Yeah.
And then you bring all these obstacles that you're talking about into play, and it just turns into just a debacle. It sounds like.
And with the state of our games right now, we want no part of that tee shot at this point, right?
Well, that's the double gun to your head, right? That's that's the two piece, right?
Yeah.
We could still get away with the one piece. Sometimes,
right, we can always bail.
We can bail with the best of them. Yes. I've been bailing for a long time. I know how to play with a bad swing. So you're talking about finishing up on that 18th hole at North Hills and how crazy that hole is, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to mention something about the Gap finishing those first and second round matches on the 9th hole at Whitemarsh, doing a split tee there.
Yeah.
I don't really know the reason behind that. other than it had to be something with the club forcing them to finish early, right? Because why else would you do it? You're in the summer solstice, right? And it's getting dark at 9 o'clock at night. There's just no reason to try to rush and get done by 3:30, right? So it had to be something with the club. And I'm just making assumptions there, right? It could be completely wrong. We're trying to read between the lines here. But it especially rubbed me the wrong way because how short that 9th hole is at Whitemarsh. It's just a shame to see like a big match, right? Come down to essentially like a little just flipping putt hole, right?
Yeah.
It's just very anticlimactic, and I would have to think that if George C. Thomas saw that, he'd be rolling over in his grave, right?
Yeah, and especially since the close there just reaches such a crescendo. Mm-hmm. The 16th hole, the par 3, right, where you can really swing something. 17, a gettable par 5, right, where really anything can happen. And then 18 is obviously the finishing hole, right? George Thomas designed those holes particularly for the close, right?
Especially for a match play finish, right?
Right.
With that par 5
right.
and the long 4, it's just and then you get into really what is the heart of the course and is the worst part of the course is 6 through 9, right? And I actually think I shouldn't throw 9 in there because actually 9's a really well designed short little 3. It's just obviously not a good closing hole.
It's too much. Right.
I mean, but it's a horrific closing hole, but actually a good golf hole. Right. But then you think about finishing on like 5 or really like 4 through 8 is like kind of starts that stretch, and you cross that road. It's just for me it would be a weird feel as that finishing my match in those.
It
holes.
Just feels so unnatural, right?
Right.
It's trying to make Tobias Harris your 2, right? Of course not. Right. No,
of course it's not going to work.
Yeah. Like no one should ever make that guy your 2.
But I want to get back to if that is the case and Whitemarsh did make them finish early, right? And there's this whole message going on. It's like, let's just be so thankful they gave us the course, right? Which obviously is assumed, right? That people express gratitude for giving up your course.
The membership's very generous to give up their golf course.
Right, and no one's saying that that's not the case, right? But I just feel like at some point we lost the honor, right, of hosting the Gap Am. Like, where is the honor in hosting this stuff anymore, right? And doing it the right way, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's now all of a sudden it's like we have to force people to host stuff, and then we have to, no matter what happens, right, get on your hands and knees and praise them for how thankful we are for you hosting this event. And I just think the Gap is such a proud organization. Why is there not that sense of pride associated with hosting the stuff, right? I mean...
Yeah, and I think we talked about it on previous podcasts when we kind of differentiated the Jersey vibe and the Gap vibe. It feels like the Gap has such a more community with the players, right, and the organization. There's like a sense of familiarity and just like a symbiosis there. It just seems like the community doesn't really, I don't know, just from the member club standpoint, it doesn't feel like there's a real
connection. I think there's
a
lack of connection between the top clubs in our area right now and the association, it feels like to me. Because you look at the Met, right, and every year they have a Friars Head, right, they have a Somerset Hills, they have a Sabonic, right, like they have all these clubs that are hosting events, right, and it seems like when they do these previews, you can tell like they're so into it, like they're so honored to host these events, and you can genuinely feel it when you watch them doing the videos and interviewing the pro and the president of the club, and they're just so bought into that, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like with the Gap, it's like they have to just beg these clubs to give their course up for 2 days out of every 5 or 10, 15 years, and it still doesn't make sense to me. Why is there this disconnection?
Yeah, I wish there was It seems like we're all in the boat together, right? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of collaboration, right, or like a common good, right? Because it's an association, right? And like the clubs don't have to be like,
no one's forcing them to be in this association.
Right. It's like one of the greatest associations in the country, right? And it's just like it doesn't seem like there's
the clubs are giving it the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
Right? Like I still feel like there should be people raising their hands saying we would love to host the Am next year
and show off our awesome golf course.
Or even if the Am's too much, we're of course we would love to give our course up, in the middle of the summer on a Monday and Tuesday, right, where our clubs close on a Monday anyway, right, and we're basically taking up 1 day of our lowest volume day on a Tuesday during the week to host the Philly Open, right?
Right.
Like why? I don't know. I'm just struggling to see the issue here.
And
right?
again, we want to cap this all off by saying like we obviously understand that this is like a way more complex issue,
Yeah.
right? And there are obviously a lot of factors at play. But again, we're fans of the Gap, we're consumers of the Gap, and we just want Philly Golf to be shown off, right? Like we don't, like we obviously understand there's decisions that have to be made, but we want Philly Golf to be shown off in a great light because it is.
Yeah,
right? It's one of the best, most rich areas of the country for golf, right? We just want it to be kind of shown as such, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're just fans, and we want the promotion of it.
No, exactly. It's all about giving it what it deserves, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And it just seems like right now there's that between the clubs, they're just not giving it that. And like you said, we don't have the answers. We don't know why, but you understand you're not going to have 4 majors and have them at the 4 top courses in the area. Right? That's not what we're saying, right? And a lot of times I don't even think that the club, you need to have something at a Marion or a Pine Valley every year. But I always get back to like, where are the Lehighs of the world, right? I mean, they've never hosted a major ever. Like, I hate to call it a specific club, but I do want to call them out because it's like where that's located, how good of a golf course it is. That's really a great venue for almost any one of our majors. Why isn't there more done there to say, hey, we'll give you the Mid-Am next year or something, right? It just seems that. And why do they get a free pass? Why, you're part of the association? Is there not a give and take here?
Yeah, totally agree.
So I hope that it kind of feels like we're at a dividing point a bit with that. We have heard confirmation from people who are involved in the association and people who just kind of know what's going on to say that it's harder now than ever to get something on a course.
Yeah.
And I hope things change, and I hope it gets better going forward. I guess I'll leave it with that. All right, so we talked about Jericho. There was another open qualifier going on, right, that day, Elkview?
Yeah, Elkview.
Louis Kelly was the medalist?
Yeah, Lewis Kelly, 468 medalist out there.
What was the number?
1 over 73.
73.
9 in ties, so.
That seems like a lot for 30 guys. No, 9 in ties?
I know, yeah.
Really?
9 in ties, yeah.
How many guys got in? Like half the field?
It was...
It doesn't even seem right.
25 guys missed the cut.
So there was more than 30.
11 guys got in.
Oh, so it was 36.
Yeah.
Okay, 36 guys. That's still 9 in ties. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's a little bit more.
Yeah, so a third of the field. But again, 1 over is pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anything about that course. I don't really have any perception of how hard that place is. Any other qualifiers around here? That was it, right? Open-wise? Springford's next week, I think.
Yeah.
And that's it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. And then we're left with the Patterson Cup, and that's it. Last thing I want to recap was the Jersey Mid-Am, which I participated in, and it's looking like will likely be my last major of the year with the state of my games in. And I certainly didn't go out very strong, if that's the case. Ocho Cinco we had out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
The old Chad Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
The X receiver, boundary receiver outside the numbers.
Yeah, that's really really bad. I'm just living in the 80s right now. That course is playing tough though.
Yeah, it was.
And I know a lot of guys give that place some flack, right? We've heard from multiple people that it's too gimmicky and it's hokey and
Greens
it's
are too
Mickey
tricked
Mouse,
out.
It's too tricked out. And outside of a few holes out there, right, or even really a few shots, I think that course is pretty damn good. And that's how I felt leaving the place. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, and I mean, since I caddied for you in that event, I had the luxury of not hitting any shots, and I'm not jaded by how I played.
Yeah.
Right? So definitely had a good evaluation of the course, but I think it's as a modern golf course, it's like exactly what you want for a great test of golf, right? Given the equipment in the game, just like the length of the modern player, how high people hit it, the spin, right? I think it was like the perfect type of challenge for like a Mid-Am event.
Yeah, I agree. I think the course it's littered with half shot penalties, which we've talked about in the past that we really like. And there are a lot of angles. There's a lot of getting back to the greens, right? You have to be approaching them from the right angle and spots. You have to miss it in the right spots. And with that being said, it's also very generous off the tee. So that's kind of where the challenge lies. You had mentioned in the past to me when you were caddying from it, you had said in the past, and I think you said it perfectly, that good players are used to hitting their targets where they're aiming, right? And they're calculating explicit hazards, right? The red stakes, the white stakes, and that's kind of how they're plotting their way around the course. But when these hazards aren't explicitly marked, right, which they're not when you have, mogully greens and runoffs and different things, right, then these players get frustrated because it's like, I hit 2 great shots and I made bogey. It's like, no, you didn't hit a great second shot, right? Just because you didn't have the right target, or you didn't play the right shot.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you said that perfectly when we were speaking before.
Because it is, like you said, generous off the tee. There's no out of bounds anywhere, right? The hazards lie in the greens, in the runoffs, in the bunkers, in the surrounds of the greens, right? It's not going to penalize you for like errant shots off the tee, right? But it just builds and builds. Like your mistake just compounds.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
Quarter shots, half shot. Like it just all kind of adds up to between shooting 75 and 85 out there, right? Or 70 and 78, right?
Right.
It's generally, you're not going to have, outside of a couple holes which are insane and are a little too much, right? We've talked about the 7th hole on the Sherman 9, right?
Yeah.
Being just way too much. And that's a hole you can implode on. There's a couple eject buttons out there that you have to avoid.
Right.
But for the most part, it's a slow bleed out there.
Right. And even still, like, it's a hard golf course with a lot of moguls, but it also provides the player so many options, right? In the variety of ways that you can bone yourself out there in bad spots, you can also hit so many different shots to get the ball close, right? I think the 8th hole comes to mind, right? Where a short par 4 up the hill where all of the guys in your group, right, we're all up in the fairway around
40 yards out on the dot.
And you guys all hit different shots, right?
Yeah.
They have different realities, right? So you could hit like 6 different shots from the fairway there to get the ball close.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I spoke with one of the guys who made match play and is one of the better players in the association. And I just asked him what he thought of the place afterwards, and he's like, and I don't know this guy, I just kind of approached him. I was just curious to hear what he said. And he's like, I hated it, it sucked, whatever. And I said, why did it suck? Like, just explain to me. I'm just, curious to hear your thoughts. And he goes, well, in the 8th hole, I hit it into the right bunker, and I had no shot, right, at the pin. And it's like, dude, the hole's 320 yards, right? And you hit it into the one spot you really can't hit it into. And you don't have a shot. Like, what do you want? Just like to be no hazard over there? Like, you could just a 320-yard hole.
Yeah. Do you reserve the right to have a shot to make birdie on the hole?
Yeah, right. Even if you hit it 40 yards right of where you're aiming, like,
yeah.
And it's stuff like that I feel like there's guys just don't. And that's all I really need to hear to know. This guy doesn't know architecture, right?
Right. And again, it's for good players, right? On that 8th hole, that right bunker is pretty prominent. Mm-hmm. I bet if you had a big red marking around there with stakes, nobody would go in it. There, right. It's not explicitly marked, right? So they just assume, if I go in there,
I'm fine. Bunker, I'll get up and down.
Right, and then the front bunker,
right, on a par 4, and then you get in there and you go, holy shit, I got to play this up to the back. I have a huge mogul to deal with. I have to play it, up to the front of the green, chip back on or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's so true you say that, and I don't think a lot of guys can see past that. Right, not being explicitly marked.
Yeah, there's just like embedded strategy in all the golf holes, which I think is just there's such a richness there for the golf course.
Yeah, like you said, for modern day standards, I love that style. I think that's where the game's headed, and I think that course, with a couple tweaks, you could call like really, really good. I really like it in its current state, and I think it should only get better, especially with conditioning. To speak on the tournament a bit, it was won by Austin Devereaux, who beat Andrew Giuliani, son of Rudy, in the finals. Not a whole lot of coverage on that Andrew.
He was wearing some very loud stuff of the right-wing variety.
He seems suppressed by the Jersey media.
Rightly so. It's kind of crazy. Pretty ostentatious stuff he was wearing there.
Yeah, you almost wouldn't even believe he played in the final if it wasn't for a couple pictures they put up of him, right? Other than that, there was no evidence that he even played in the event.
Right. It did seem like he was on the campaign trail out there for sure. Like if there were only a few babies out there to kiss, right? Just to get some photo ops.
You put a mic in front of that guy and you realize this is a big mistake.
You can't play the play out music quick enough, right?
But yeah, Austin wins, which out there, he played really well the whole week and is impressive. But I think the most impressive thing of the week was Clifford Lindholm's 7 under par in the qualifying round out there. Like you said, you were on the bag for me in that. Isn't that unfathomable to you, that round?
Yeah. He made 1 bogey on his last hole. He actually got it to 8 under, right? Which is just so disheartening. But like we've discussed, like at Union League, the line between birdie and bogey is so fine. Mm-hmm. Even on the easy holes, right? The par 5s.
And once again, the easy, like quote unquote easy holes.
Like some of the par 5s.
Because all of them, the only hole I think I would say is like actually an easy hole out there is 9 Sherman. That a wide open par 5 where you just kind of black. Like there's really no challenge to that hole.
Right.
Every other hole you could fuck up to some degree.
Yeah. Like you said, he had it to 8 under. He birdied 16. Which is such a joke. 495 par 5. Mm-hmm. That was such a joke. But yeah, I can only think, I mean, shooting 32, 33, 65, he was 5 clear of second in the qualifying round, Austin Devereaux. I could only think he's just paying homage to the late Ulysses S. Grant in his just thorough destruction of Atlanta during the Civil War. I mean, because he just totally razed that place to the ground.
Just torched it.
Yeah.
And then the Grant 9 is where he shot the 33 on, right?
Right, yeah.
Which is the harder of the 9s, which is just an unbelievable score on
Eagle
those.
on 11, birdie on 12, birdie on 16.
Yeah.
Just destruction, right? Atlanta was building back just 50 years after that, right? It's almost like Hurston and Fry have to go back there and make some
changes,
around that 9 after he just lambasted the place.
Yeah, like that's what happened at like Congressional, right? You know, when Rory laid waste to that, right back in
2011.
11, I was gonna say, is that 11? Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, we gotta. You know, I forget who they brought in. I don't know if it was the U.S. Open doctor and Reese Jones, right?
The doctor. It's like the Kobe stopper, right?
Yeah. I don't even want to get into Reese because I think he stinks. But I agree. They almost have to look at that scorecard and say, what the hell happened out there?
Yeah.
How this man do this to this design?
Yeah, 5 clear, some of the best mid-ams in the area. Right, that's...
in 18 holes.
18 holes.
Before we wrap up this segment, I wanted to mention one more thing. Have you ever seen a guy tap out of a match play match before?
No, I've never, in like one of these majors, no, definitely not.
I can't think of really anything though, right? Even like a club, I mean...
No, nothing. Not even an injury, nothing really. Never.
No, because I mean, if you're down 6 down or something, you just kind of just mail it. Like you blast the ball, you just give them the hole, right? And just you're done, right? Like if you're really that checked out and you're just getting crushed, right?
Yeah.
Chris Lawler, Riverton's own, tapped out that Andrew Hurley, and he's just a Jersey E Club guy. So we don't know his exact location right now. He's just part of the Web Club, but. Did he even make it through 9? It just walked off after 9. Does it say he conceded?
It was. Let me see the exact verbiage.
I think he was 7 up through 9. Chris was.
Yeah, Chris was 7. He was 7 through 9. Chris shot 33 on the front, and then, the official verbiage is 7 up conceded.
Man.
So XX on 10 and 11 just to kind of get
I mean,
get it to
home for brunch, right?
Yeah, because they teed off probably 7.
Maybe even breakfast. He might even be able to catch the breakfast at Chick-fil-A. I think that ends at 10. He's going to go get himself
Yeah, absolutely. Who needs all-day breakfast,
biscuit,
right? When you can 7-up concede a guy, right?
I would say that's a leading candidate for our biggest demolition of the year so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's almost hard to top. Yeah, right? It's almost hard to top.
Yeah, show me something else. Because at this point, this is
it. Yeah. Could be of the decade.
This is not. These are very competitive golfers, like top mid-ams in the area, right? This is not like David and Goliath, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Chris is an excellent player, right? But all of these guys are more than capable, right?
Yeah, this isn't like a President's Cup match where you catch a guy on the wrong side of a handicap, right? And you have that disparity and something crazy happens, right? This is like you said, this is competitive golf here. Yeah, I thought that was insane, and just wanted to add, true to Slammer style, we really slammed it out of that place.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a beeline right from scoring to the parking lot. There was no pleasantries exchanged, and it's not that we were We were done.
It was a long day out there.
It was hot. It was a long walk.
It was a long day. We wanted to get home, and it wouldn't have mattered if I shot what I just didn't. I was gone. We had seen enough of the place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Apple Watch was 16,000 steps that day too. That's a tough loop out there for those caddies out there.
Unbelievable.
P's and P's if you have to do that in the dead of summer, like a day like today, right when it's like 99 degrees.
Recording on Saturday here, and it's just I really couldn't imagine. And one last thing, and then we're done. Michael Brown played in that, and he made the Final Four, right?
Mm-hmm. Losing Dawson Devereaux in the semis.
Yep. The day before it started, he was when he qualified for the U.S. Senior Open, which was at the Steel Club, way up in PA.
Mm-hmm.
I think close to 2 hours, I believe,
yeah.
Right? And that playoff, I'm assuming, didn't get done until like close to dark, right? After he got in, I just shot him a text congratulating him, whatever. He got back to me at 3 a.m. the next morning, right? Saying, hey, I'll see you at the Mid-Am or whatever.
Right, the morning of the
Mid-Am. The morning of the Mid-Am, right? So he probably gets home at 10:30. He gets up the next day at 3:30 or whatever he's doing. He drives all the way down to Union Lake and tee off early. And then carries his own bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a 50-year-old man, right? I believe he's 50.
Yeah.
Maybe even older, at least 50. And carries his own bag in that, shoots like around even qualifiers.
Shot 100, he birdied the first 2 holes.
Yeah. And then goes out the next day and wins 2 more matches, right? So he walked another 30, we said 16,000 steps we had, so probably another 30,000 steps. I'm factoring in the extra 1,000 or so you walk looking for my balls, right? Michael's a little straighter than me.
Right?
And then wakes up the very next morning again. They tee off at 7 o'clock, probably getting up at 4:30, driving down there again, right? And ends up losing the semis to Austin. But it's just anyone who can play golf, I always want to share that, can just appreciate just how grueling that is and how much it just goes to show you how much we love the game and what we'll do and sacrifice to compete in this stuff, because people just think, oh, Mike Brown, he's so good, like he just kind of shows up, and it's like, dude, this guy is like, he's a beast.
He's an ultimate grinder.
It's unbelievable.
He's like a Spartan athlete.
And on top of that, he's out there saying hi to everybody, being a complete gentleman, right? It's not like he puts his headphones on and puts his head down, right? And the emotional drain of speaking with everybody and feeling obligated to, put the face on and shake hands, and it's just a lot, man. It really is a lot. And I think it just goes underappreciated with golf how hard doing those marathons are, right?
Yeah, I mean, we practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
We put time into our games, and we're not even in the same stratosphere as Mike, right? And he it looks so effortless to him, right? Just to manage just all of these tournaments, all of the deep runs, right? That's taxing. Like, I can barely get through like a club championship qualifier and then like maybe 1 or 2 matches the next day, right? And then I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, this guy, that's like his breakfast. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was just nice to share, because it's nice to shed light on what these guys are going through when they're accomplishing these great achievements, right?
Right, because I think everyone talks about like just the difference between a tour pro and like your scratch golfer, right? They're like, that's a Grand Canyon, right? Mm-hmm. I would say there's definitely a canyon between guys like us and Mike Brown. Yeah. I don't think people understand like how much better he is than like your run-of-the-mill 1 handicap scratch golfer.
Right.
He's just so much better.
Right.
Right, in like all facets, really.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's what kind of gets back to us, like, why do we even play in this stuff? Because those are the guys you have to beat, and you can't beat them.
You can't even beat them on your best day, their worst day.
No, so that kind of gets back into, like, maybe we just withdraw from that Patterson Cup. I've kind of had enough of this right now. I hate to sound down, but, man, I'm down.
Yeah, it's hard not to be.
When you don't have a swing, and then you don't have time to really find a swing, you start looking at your calendar, and it's like, maybe I can practice in like 4 days from now, and maybe I'll be able to squeeze in a bucket. It's like trying to lose 10 pounds before a wedding in 2 days. It's just not going to happen, right? It's not possible.
Right. It's a lot of wishing out there, right? And it's like if you're obviously you're far removed from school, right? Or like the flashcards before a test, right? Whatever. But like, even when you get to the range at some of these places, and like you're studying for the final exam, you're looking at a flashcard, right? You have 10 flashcards in front of you. Oh, first one's wrong. I didn't get that one right. Second one's wrong, right? Third one's wrong, and it's time for the tee time, right? You got to go, and you're just like, Well, I bombed my flashcard. Let's see how the exam goes. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, right. I'm sure I'll just somehow figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, right. I'll acquire this knowledge as I go through it. Right.
Like, like telepathy or whatever.
You're really just the fool, right? And essentially, at the moment, I feel like a fool.
Yeah.
And it's foolish to continue to sign up for these qualifiers when you have no game or you don't have the game to. I just want to get back to the point where I'm not even holding people up. Like I said, if I can just put the ball back in play and not have these mass search parties and have these families looking for my ball, right? Like, that's rock bottom stuff, and it's time to either make. I'm at that point where it's like I either got to stop playing in this stuff and wait till I get some game together and have time to get some game together, or.
It's a waiting game. Let's call it that, right? It's a waiting game. It's a wait and see, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a wait and see. I think that's all we got today. I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. We'll keep churning some stuff out here as the summer goes along. Even though we're discouraged with our golf games, we are not discouraged by talking about it. We're going to keep these coming, so we appreciate it.
Thanks again, guys.